10th anniversary, Luftgekühlt, as it's known. And for those who don't know what that means, it means air cooled soul. And in the Porsche vernacular, that also represents all of the air cooled cars in the manufacturer's history. That spans extraordinary period of time, and really from the company's inception all the way through 1998. Tell our listeners why and how. It's your brainchild working alongside Howie Idelson. Why and how?
Luftgekühlt was just a idea of how could we rethink our parents' car show. When I went to the local car show in Westlake Village, California, as a 6 or 7 year old, I loved looking at cars, but I also remember asking myself, now what do I do? I've sort of seen all the cars. It's just a strip mall parking lot. Where do we go from here? And fast forward, to buying my first vintage air-cooled Porsche and getting in that car and understanding why the classic model line of Porsche is so addictive. It's basically that it takes you back to your first exposures of driving a car. It's so visceral. The car is so small. You hear and smell and see. The windshield is very close to your face. You can reach over and touch the passenger door, and you're driving public roads, but you feel like you're in a race car. And I wanted to share all of these stories and experiences, but I also wanted to learn more about all the different models and stories and engine styles. And so I just started to ponder if I could entertain the idea of introducing people who are not from the Porsche world to the classic Porsche cars and stories and all the humans and legends behind it. And the end result was 40 cars at a very cool coffee shop in Venice Beach, California, and a couple hundred people that I sort of knew and was able to email and say, hey, if you're around on Sunday morning at 10:30, come by for some tacos and beer and some music. Bring your family, bring your dogs, and check out the cars that I've curated with some friends to tell the entirety story of what Porsche did from the late 40s to the late 90s with the air-cooled era. And what we ended up with was, as far as the eye could see, Porsches lined down each side of Lincoln Boulevard in West LA. And I knew we were on to something because those cars weren't even part of the show. They had just heard or seen through Instagram that there was something going on at a little coffee shop at Deus Ex Machina. And yeah, we were off. From there, it's been a decade of me just sort of trying to keep up with the demand and the ideas and the introductions and the invites to bring our show around the world. We've been to Austria, Germany. This year we're in Denmark, in Poland, but we've really harnessed and anchored this brand in Southern California. We do an annual gathering of multiple hundreds of cars and thousands of people who pay to come and not so much look at cars, but just to experience an amazing day out. And we curate the cars in sort of photographical moments, work very closely with a longtime friend of mine who I met through motorsport, Jeff Swart. And it's
He's
all
been on
about
this
bringing,
program. Yeah,
yeah, he's
he's a
he's
great
a
guy.
legend in his own right, photographer, racer at Pikes Peak,
Yep.
film director. And yeah, we've just evolved this and tried to keep up with the enthusiasm that is behind the brand. But we always lay out our experiences in our shows with the non-Porsche owner in mind. Where our idea is for people to come, experience, learn, connect, and the cars are sort of the reason we all gather, sort of like a sports team and the enthusiasm between a sports team and human. But the human relationships and the social scene is what we thrive off of. And then after the show, all the results that you see on social media and these frameable photos of legendary race cars from Porsche's history, collectible street cars, all versions of street cars. We love resto mods, we love survivors, we love highly modified, outlawed, you name it. And we use information to educate what these cars mean and what all these numbers that Porsche enthusiasts talk about. What's a 911 versus a 914 versus a 962? it really is a lot. In the beginning, I remember living in Germany in my first year with Porsche and just going to their little internal library and studying books to try and understand the history and the chronological past of what they've done. And then we've started to evolve and really understand that there's another story to tell past 1998, and that's everything that's happening around the Porsche automobile race and street these days.
Has it even amazed you, the momentum? Has it just blown you away?
Yes, amazed is a positive word. Sometimes overwhelmed, but all the time grateful that this we're still riding this wave. As you mentioned, I co-founded the brand with a longtime friend that I met in the karting world, Howie Idelson. But every single way that this event and this brand has grown is through the network that I talked about earlier. You know, most people on the team at Luft, whether that's Jeff or James Longstaff, Mark Hotchkiss, these are all people that I met through the Porsche network one way or another. And the team is 400 large on our big events. And it's a lot of responsibility, but it's been such a great journey for myself. I'm not formally educated. I left home at 16 to go race in Europe, and I don't have a college degree. So I've had to learn everything from sourcing cotton for our apparel line to disaster relief plans, so that you can go in front of the city council and tell them you want to shut down a section of Indianapolis to have a show at the Bottle Works district. So yeah, every bit of it's been a gift of education and network.
Amazing. Road and Track called it the most ambitious car show in the world. That's high praise, Patrick.
Yeah,
You
it's again rethinking what people think of with the stigmas of car shows and trying to break that open, and lucky to have inspired a lot of other brands to change direction or to create their own unique experiences, and just to share car enthusiasm with all walks of life. We remember, if you're a car or racing fan, you remember your first days and being dragged along likely with a family member. So we're trying to create the next generation.